Welcome to Mom Matters. I'm your host, Alyssa DeVere. In the next 10 easy-to-watch minutes, we're going to give you some really practical tips for productive parenting. Today's topic is Dr. Perfect, how to find the best pediatrician for your family. And joining us is a real expert, Dr. Perfect himself, Dr. Peter Greenspan. He's a pediatrician at Mass General Hospital for Children and the Associate Medical Director for the Massachusetts General Physicians Organization. Thank you for joining us today.
Nice to be here.
We're very happy to have you here because I know in a lot of parents' minds this can be a very stressful situation to have to find either a new pediatrician for a new child that they're having or replace a pediatrician they may not be happy with. So the first question is, where do you start looking, or how do you start looking?
Well, I think a really good way to start is to ask people that you know who have pediatricians, and then the next step would be to interview pediatricians.
Interview them. Okay. Well, let's back up for a second. When you ask your friends, what kind of questions should I be asking?
Well, presumably your friends are people who have some similar needs to yours, and I think you want to know from them how the pediatrician relates to the parents and the child, and is the pediatrician knowledgeable and conscientious.
Okay. And then what about the internet? Should I get a name, for example, Dr. X, and should I be researching that on the internet at that point, and what should I be looking for?
Well, the amount of information that you can find on the internet about any individual pediatrician is fairly limited, and I think it tends to be inclusive. It's going to have a lot of people on there. I don't think it's going to be that useful in terms of figuring out who would be good for you. It may be very good in finding out who's around in your particular area.
Okay, but what about researching a particular doctor? Is it important to see where they went to school or what kind of boards they're on? Any data like that helpful?
Well, these can be found out on in the internet or through the Board of Registration in Medicine of the different states.
Okay.
I think having a pediatrician who's board certified in pediatrics or family practice, depending on where you are, is helpful. But that is a low bar. There are a lot of people who are board certified.
Okay.
And it also lists where they went to school and so on and so forth. But, you know, a pediatrician who went to Harvard is not necessarily better for you than a pediatrician who didn't.
Okay. Well, you also mentioned that you should interview them face-to-face. So I get into the office, I'm meeting this doctor that my friend said she loves. What do I ask the doctor? What kind of questions should I ask?
Well, I think the first thing, before you think about the questions actually, is what kind of relationship can you see having with this person? There's a sort of gut feeling that you have about a person when you sit down with them. Remember, this could be a 20-year relationship, and it's not a marriage, so that you don't have to go through a lot of legal hassle to get a divorce if that's not working out. But you ideally would like to have a long-term relationship with this person. So is this a person that you can relate to, who comes across to you as a straight-talking person who seems kind of positive and personable? Mm-hmm. And is this somebody that you feel like you can ask questions to and will relate well to your child? So there's a gut feeling there that I think is really important, because if you don't have that, it may not be for you.
Okay, that's a good point. I remember when I was interviewing pediatricians for my children, the eye contact and kind of just the overall interest in me, it would differ from doctor to doctor, and that was very important to me. So I can understand how some of that can be subtle but really critical for you to see in person.
Then we can get to some of the questions that you should ask. I mean, you want to know how the office functions, what the pediatrician's availability is, who else might be seeing your child in addition to that particular doctor, other doctors or nurse practitioners or whatever, what hospitals your doctor is connected with, so that if your child did need either emergency care or hospitalization, where would that be, and what kind of connection does your physician have with that institution?
That's a good point. Good question. We're going to just take a very quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some issues like how do you separate positively from an existing pediatrician you may not like anymore, as well as some other interesting facts. We'll be right back.
Every parent knows at any crowded venue, just a split-second distraction is all it takes. And without identification, your child is lost. Finally, there's a solution. Wanderwear. T-shirts and child identification tags that give parents peace of mind.
Welcome back to Mom Matters. We're here with Dr. Peter Greenspan talking about finding the perfect pediatrician. You started to tell us a little bit about some of these more subjective things to look for in an interview. Anything else that's important, you think?
Well, there are some parents who like pediatricians who will sort of tell them what to do. And there are other parents who are want a pediatrician who is less directive, who may discuss options with them in cases where that's appropriate. And I think that is worth asking about when you interview a pediatrician.
That's a good point, yeah, because I mean, I would imagine some parents would want to be told what to do because it's just, they're looking to that authority, and in other cases they want to know. Gosh, this is a really good point. What happens when you have an existing pediatrician and things are just not going right? What should you do as a parent?
Well, ideally, I think you would try to discuss that with your pediatrician. Some pediatricians are more open to those kinds of discussions than others. I think it's nice to have a pediatrician who would discuss those things. And I actually think that being able to discuss things that are not going well ultimately strengthens the relationship rather than makes the relationship worse. That working through some of these issues will make your relationship stronger over the time that you're with that pediatrician.
And I know you said it wasn't a marriage, but if you have to separate, you say, thanks, I got to move on, and you request records and you go to the new one? Is that easy?
There is no, the parent has no obligation to tell the pediatrician why they're leaving or even that they're leaving. They can just call the office and request the records. I think, again, that it's nice to have some communication so that somebody might learn something from this.
I agree. So real quickly, additional resources that we can point people to if they want more information.
Well, the best information about physicians that are on record come through the Board of Registration in Medicine, these are state organizations, and they all have websites. Excellent. So they can tell that would be the main public source of information.
Excellent. I really want to thank you for being with us today. It was invaluable information, and I'm sure there's lots of parents out there grateful for having a good pediatrician. Unfortunately, not you, because they're not all in Massachusetts, but ability to really find somebody they trust and feel good about. I want to thank our viewers today for joining us, and again, refer you back to our website, which is mom-matters.com. There you'll find information and the archive of our previous shows, as well as information about upcoming shows. So for Mom Matters, this is Alyssa DeVere giving you practical tips for more productive parenting.